Have you ever heard of a Watery Masters? Well, thousands of Chinese students are heading to Singapore for exactly these kinds of fast-track degrees. And believe me, it is causing a massive debate. So today, we're going to dig into why this is happening and what it really tells us about the future of education. Okay, so the first thing you got to wrap your head around is this term Shuishuo. It literally translates to watery masters. And no, that's not a good thing. It's a criticism, a jab at programs that people think are kinda, well, watered down. The idea is that they care more about making money than offering a truly tough academic experience. And then you've got this one, Fanxiang Liuxue, or reverse study abroad. Yeah, it's as sarcastic as it sounds. It's that feeling when you fly halfway across the world to get a global experience, only to find your classroom is basically packed with people from your hometown. It really makes you question that whole cultural immersion promise, right? So hear all this, watery degrees, no real immersion, and you've got to wonder, right? Why on earth are thousands of smart, ambitious students actively picking this path? Well, that is the big question, and we're about to get into it. First, to really get this, we have to look at what's happening inside China. There are some incredibly powerful forces pushing students to look for options somewhere, anywhere else. And let me tell you, the pressure is insane. I mean, just look at this. It's a perfect storm. First, you've got this massive degree inflation. A bachelor's just isn't enough anymore to land a top job. Then, the competition for master's programs inside China is just brutal. We're talking an entrance exam that can take over a year of your life to prepare for. So spending 3 whole years on a domestic master's starts to feel like a really big, really risky bet. And look, this quote from a student named CZ just nails it. They said the job market in China now demands a master's degree. It used to be that a bachelor's was fine, but the bar has just been raised so much higher. This isn't about getting an edge anymore. For a lot of people, it feels like it's about just staying in the game. Okay, so we've got the push factors down. But out of all the places in the world, why Singapore? Now we're going to get into the pull factors. And you'll see this isn't about some romantic dream of studying abroad. It's an incredibly pragmatic choice. And to understand the appeal of Singapore, you have to get this one crucial concept, Xingjiabi. It basically means value for money. But it's more than just being cheap. It's this complex calculation, balancing the cost, the quality of what you're getting, and the real-world payoff in the end. And this is exactly where Singapore hits that perfect sweet spot. You get these world-class, top-ranked universities. I mean, NUS is number 8 in the entire world, but the cost is so much lower than a comparable school in the US or the UK. Plus, it's close to home, it's culturally familiar, it's famously safe, and that one-year program, it's just incredibly efficient. It pretty much ticks every single Xingjiabi box. You know, this quote from a student, GZ, is just so powerful. She said she had an offer from a Western university, but a shooting incident happened there and it completely freaked her out. She said safety was her #1 priority. It's a huge reminder that the value of an education isn't just about what happens in the lecture hall. All right, so this is where it gets really interesting. We've heard the harsh critiques, watery masters, reverse study abroad, but how do the students themselves feel about it? Their perspective might actually change your mind. Okay, let's dive into that first big one, the accusation that these degrees are academically watery or just not very rigorous. And what's so fascinating here is that students aren't just brushing this off. Some, like this student YJP, are pretty upfront about it. They admit that sometimes it feels more like a 5th year of undergrad than what you'd traditionally think of as a master's program. So they get the criticism. But here's the twist. They argue that the critics are totally missing the point. They're measuring the wrong thing. Because for these students, the real, tangible value isn't about academic theory. It's about access. And bam! There it is, from GZ again. She says that at her university in Singapore, she can get in front of the best, companies like JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley. Opportunities she just couldn't get before. A degree that does that. That's not watery. That's a key that opens some very, very important doors. Okay, so what about that other critique? The whole reverse study abroad thing. The idea that if you're surrounded by other Chinese students, you're missing out on a real intercultural experience. Well, once again, the students completely flip the script on this. Think about it. You're in a super intense 1-year program. You're trying to study, find a job, build a network. It's a lot. So being surrounded by classmates who speak your language and understand your culture, that's not a bug, it's a feature. As GZ puts it, it just makes everything, from group projects to daily life, so much smoother. And I love this quote from HYR because it just cuts right through the whole debate. She says it's an active choice. If you decide to stay in your comfort zone, that's on you. The opportunity for immersion is there if you seek it out. It's about taking personal responsibility, not just blaming your environment.
So, after all this, what does it all mean? Let's zoom out for a second, because this trend isn't really just about China or Singapore. It's a huge signal about where global education is heading.
So the bottom line is this. We're seeing a new kind of global student emerge, one who is incredibly pragmatic. They're redefining what value even means. It's not just about prestige anymore, it's about career access, it's about efficiency, and it's about safety. And this is a big deal because it shows a real shift away from the old-school Western-focused model of education. Intra-Asian mobility is becoming a huge force to be reckoned with. And all of that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. As the entire world of global education continues to change, as students themselves vote with their tuition fees for these new models, maybe it's time for the rest of us to rethink our old ideas of what makes an education truly valuable.